I got home a day early. The trip was supposed to run through Sunday, but the last panel ended sooner than expected, and I figured, why not head back? The drive from Phoenix was quiet. No music, no podcast. Just the sound of tires on asphalt and the occasional thought about how good it'd be to sleep in my own bed. Maybe Caitlin would be surprised. Maybe we'd do takeout, watch that series she kept saying we'd start but never did. I even imagined her face lighting up when I walked in through the front door. But what I got wasn't surprise. What I got was a white Toyota Highlander with temporary plates parked halfway up our driveway. At first, I didn't think much of it. Maybe it was a neighbor's car, or a friend visiting next door. The kind of thing you glance at and forget. But something about the way it sat there, perfectly centered, pulled in like it belonged, made me pause. Not crooked, not on the street like a guest. It was parked like whoever drove it had been here more than once. Like they knew exactly how far the curb curved, how our driveway sloped slightly near the garage. I sat in my car for a few seconds, engine still running, just staring at it. It looked spotless, too clean, new. The kind of car that hadn't yet gathered any personality. No bumper stickers, no scratches. Temporary dealer plates still flapping a bit in the wind. I stepped out and rolled my bag across the pavement, my eyes drifting to the house. Everything looked normal. The porch light hadn't burned out. Mailbox was empty. Front blinds closed as usual. The lawn had been mowed, which was weird because I'd meant to do it before I left and never got around to it. Maybe she hired someone? Or maybe she didn't want the neighbors talking. Inside, the air felt lived in, but not by me. The first thing I noticed was the scent. A men's cologne I didn't recognize, not the subtle one I use maybe once a week, but something bolder, heavier, and definitely not mine. It hit me right in the chest the second I closed the door behind me. That scent was everywhere, like someone had walked through every room of the house wearing it. The kitchen lights were on, and there was a single wine glass in the sink. Not one from the set we use every Friday night. This was one of those stemless glasses from the back of the cabinet. The ones Caitlin said were too nice for every day. The rim had a faint pink smear, like lipstick, and there were droplets of red wine still clinging to the bottom. I stood there staring at it, keys still in my hand. One glass, no second one, no plate, no leftover food, no takeout box. I checked the trash empty. Checked the dishwasher also empty. It didn't make sense. If she'd had someone over, wouldn't there be at least 2 glasses? Or did she clean everything and just forget that one? Or worse, had I just missed whoever it was? I called Caitlin. It rang 3 times before going to voicemail. I tried to sound casual. Hey, I'm home early. Just got in. Thought I'd surprise you. Give me a call when you can. I didn't mention the car, or the wine glass, or the cologne. I just kept my voice light and calm. I stood by the window watching the Highlander like it was a live grenade. I felt something crawl in the back of my mind, something cold and sharp. But I told myself not to overreact. There had to be an explanation. A work friend, a neighbor, maybe someone Ubered here and left the car for a bit. But that cologne, that wine glass, that wasn't nothing. It was an hour before she came home. I heard her keys before I saw her, the familiar jingle, then the door swinging open like it always did. She stepped in with a quick smile, like this was any other Thursday. Hey, she said. You're back early. She was wearing yoga pants and an oversized hoodie. No makeup, hair in a ponytail. Her whole vibe screamed casual, like she was trying to blend into the couch. I played along. Yeah, conference ended early. Figured I'd come back, beat traffic. She set her keys down and gave me a quick kiss on the cheek. Not slow, not warm, just efficient, like a check mark. Then I asked it. Hey, whose car is that in the driveway? Her face didn't change, not even a blink. Oh, that's Ryan's, she said quickly. From work. He had to be downtown today for a briefing, and he hates paying for parking, so I told him he could leave his car here and take the shuttle with the rest of the team. It's just for the day. She said it fast, too fast, like she was reading it off a card in her head. I nodded, pretending to take it in. Got it. It's just easier for him. You know how ridiculous downtown rates are, she added. already walking toward the bedroom. I was going to text you, but didn't think you'd be home until Sunday. I followed her with my eyes, not my feet. She didn't ask about my trip. She didn't ask if I was hungry. She didn't ask why I was home early. Instead, she disappeared into the bathroom, and I heard the sound of the shower turning on. I stood in the kitchen, staring at the wine glass again. It hadn't moved. The smell of that cologne was still in the air, hanging like fog. I walked through the hallway slowly, taking mental notes. The throw blanket on the couch was rumpled in a way it usually wasn't. The corner of the guest bedroom door was slightly ajar. The laundry basket in our room, empty. Too empty. I didn't say anything that night. When she came out, she acted like everything was normal. Asked if I wanted to order Thai. Laughed at something on TV. Kissed me goodnight and rolled over. But she didn't ask about my trip. And I didn't sleep, because something was wrong. I didn't have evidence. Not yet. But I had instincts. And I'd learned in life that when you feel a shift, when something doesn't sit right, when you notice things you were never supposed to notice, it's because the story's already changed. The script's been rewritten, and you're just now catching up. I looked at Caitlin, sleeping peacefully beside me. The faint trace of perfume still clung to her collar. She was calm, too calm, and I, for the first time in our marriage, felt completely alone. It's strange how you can live with someone and still miss when they start slipping away. You expect a blowout fight or a moment that changes everything. But with Caitlin, it was slower, like erosion. Gentle, silent, and almost invisible, until I woke up one day and realized the ground beneath us had already collapsed. After the Highlander incident, things should have gotten better. Or worse, something. But instead, everything just paused. As if we'd both agreed not to name what was happening. We smiled, we made dinner, we talked about bills. We moved in sync, like dancers on autopilot. But the soul of it, the closeness, it was gone. And it didn't leave with a slam. It slipped out the back door without saying goodbye. I noticed small things first. She changed her perfume. It used to be something floral, warm, faint, familiar. But one morning she left for work smelling like something expensive and sharp. Something I didn't recognize. It lingered in the hallway longer than she did. I didn't comment at first, but I noticed she only wore it when she left the house alone. When we were together, she reverted to the old one or none at all. Her clothes changed, too. Not in an obvious way, just upgraded. Tops I'd never seen before. Jackets with high-end tags still stitched on the sleeves. She claimed she bought them on sale or used a gift card. And maybe she did. But they weren't bought for comfort. These weren't the kind of outfits you throw on for errands. These were intentional. Every piece had a purpose, and I wasn't part of it. Then came the cycling. She bought a used road bike a year ago and rode it 3 times total. But suddenly, she was up early on Saturdays, saying she had to get her miles in before traffic. Only the bike didn't move from its spot in the garage. Dust collected on the tires. Cobwebs ran between the spokes. I took a photo of it one morning, time-stamped, and watched her ride off in gym clothes with no helmet, no gear, no actual bike. Sometimes it was brunch with Chloe. Other times, client meetings. She always had a reason to be gone. Always some untraceable errand. Always an answer that came a little too quick. Her phone was the biggest change. Caitlin used to leave it anywhere, on the windowsill, the kitchen counter, wedged into the couch cushions. She used to joke about how bad she was at keeping it charged. But now it was never out of her reach. She brought it into the bathroom, kept it face down, and jumped every time it buzzed. Once, I reached for it thinking it was mine, and she snatched it from my hand like I just picked up a loaded P***N. She claimed it was work stuff, confidential projects, or sensitive client notes. But I knew better. She was hiding the world inside that screen. And I wasn't invited. The house started reflecting the distance, too. Her books, the stack of paperbacks she always kept by the nightstand, started disappearing. Her makeup bag vanished from the bathroom. The shared Spotify account showed her listening to playlists she never used before, moody indie tracks and ambient electronic music I'd never heard playing in our house. When I asked her about it, She said she liked having background noise to work. But it wasn't just noise. It was atmosphere, mood, vibe, someone else's soundtrack. One night, I suggested we start that show she'd been raving about for months, the one she kept saying we'd watch together. She hesitated and said she'd already started it. With someone from work, she added casually. We had a binge night after a late project. The words hit harder than I expected. Not because of the show, but because of the way she said it. So neutral, so unbothered. Like I was a casual acquaintance who had missed a group hangout. Like I hadn't been the person she used to rush home to. The int asterisk Macy had disappeared. Not just physically, though that, too. She stopped reaching for my hand during movies. Stopped leaning into me on the couch. Stopped curling into my side at night. The bed between us felt wider than it ever had. When she slept, she faced away. When she dreamed, I wasn't in them anymore. There was one night, and I'll never forget this, when I made her favorite pasta, set the table, lit a candle like we used to. She came home late, took one look at the table and said, "Can I just eat in the bedroom? I'm wiped." She took her plate, disappeared down the hall and closed the door. No kiss. No thank you. Just closed the door. That moment, something broke. I remember sitting at the table for a long time. I didn't even eat. I just stared at the empty chair across from me, the flickering candle, the untouched second glass of wine. I told myself not to make it a big deal. People get tired. People get overwhelmed. But deep down I knew. She didn't want to share that space with me anymore. Not even a plate of food. We were coexisting, not living. Polite roommates, functional strangers. Two people orbiting the same house but never really landing in it together. Even the way she spoke to me changed. Fewer, "How was your day?" and more, "Did you pay the water bill?" Conversations turned transactional. No inside jokes, no shoulder nudges, no mid-dinner laughs. If she asked anything personal, it was on a delay, like she was checking a box. I tried. I really did. I left notes on her mirror. I brought home pastries from the bakery she loved. I even took a weekend off to surprise her with a short trip. Just the two of us. She said she couldn't get away. Too many deliverables and Q3 pressure. But I knew better. The only thing she couldn't get away from was me. There was one night I'll always remember. I woke up at 2 a.m. and noticed she wasn't in bed. I found her sitting on the couch in the dark, staring at her phone. No sound. Just a blue glow on her face. When I asked what she was doing, she jumped like I'd caught her in a crime. Saw an alert. "Work stuff," she said, fumbling to lock the screen. But the look in her eyes told me everything I needed to know. She wasn't reading work emails. She was somewhere else, mentally, emotionally, and that place didn't include me. That was the first night I considered the possibility. That maybe I wasn't crazy. Maybe the car in the driveway, the wine glass, the cologne, the new perfume and the disappearing books and the lies about bike rides, maybe it was all part of a slow unraveling she thought I wouldn't notice. But I did. And as I lay there beside her that night, wide awake, watching her breathe in that soft, steady rhythm of someone who no longer feels watched, I realized I had become invisible in my own home. She had left me behind, one quiet omission at a time. And the scariest part? I couldn't tell if she even noticed. I was in Austin when the last string finally snapped. 3-day conference, pretty straightforward. Panels, networking, hotel coffee that tasted like warm disappointment. By the third night, I was dead tired, just scrolling through emails before bed, when something strange showed up in my inbox. A flagged alert from accounting. Possible misuse of corporate card. Please review. I almost ignored it. I hadn't used the card in 2 days. The only thing I charged was a Caesar salad and an Uber. But curiosity won. I clicked. There it was. A receipt for a $58 DoorDash order, sent to my home address. At first, I thought it was fraud. Some glitch. Someone must have copied the number. But when I opened the PDF breakdown, I saw the order name, Caitlin M. Her full name, our address, tipped generously. Wine, salads, charcuterie board. It wasn't a mistake. It was her. I called our compliance department, thinking maybe she'd accidentally used the card. She had access once, years ago, for a project we collaborated on. Maybe it autofilled? But what the guy on the phone said next stopped me cold. She filed a guest badge request recently under your account. A what? He cleared his throat. A temporary visitor's badge for your company's L.A. office. Name on the request was Evans. Listed your home address as the local residence. Approved and used the badge last Sunday. Last Sunday. My voice cracked. She said she was in San Diego visiting her sister. She wasn't. We have a photo. He emailed it to me within minutes. I opened the attachment with a sense of dread building behind my ribs. There she was, Caitlin, walking through the glass doors of the L.A. office. Sunday afternoon. Hair down, big sunglasses on her head. Next to her, smiling like it was his building, stood a guy I'd never seen before. Tall, crisp blazer, Mont Blanc pen in his front pocket. Confident. Evans. He had his hand casually at her back like he belonged there. Like they were a team. Couple. My wife and a man I didn't even know existed. I stared at the image for a long time. You always imagine it'll feel like a punch, that your heart will shatter or your fists will curl. But all I felt was cold. Detached. Like my body had decided to sit this one out. There was more. The compliance guy, clearly sensing something bigger was going on, offered to send the internal camera snaps *TS as part of their protocol. In case it's a broader fraud issue, he said. An hour later, another email hit. This one included a hallway still from outside the conference room. Caitlin was leaning against the wall, laughing at something Evans had said. His hand brushed her arm. Her face was turned up to his, smiling in a way I hadn't seen in months. That natural kind of smile that comes without effort. The kind she used to save for me. I zoomed in. That hoodie she always wore at home? The one I thought was just for lazy Sundays? He was wearing it. She had given it to him. I didn't cry. I didn't throw anything. I didn't call her. I just sat there in my hotel room, staring at the screen while the city buzzed outside the window. And then, because some part of me wasn't done torturing itself, I opened our shared streaming account. She'd been logged in at home. The watch history showed a romantic indie film, something she swore she'd only watch with me. Wait for me, she'd said. Let's watch it together. Now it was half-watched. Same night she told me she was at her sister's. I checked the device list. Someone had connected a Samsung TV that wasn't ours. Location: downtown L.A. It all clicked. This wasn't just emotional distance anymore. This wasn't tension or stress or drifting apart. This was betrayal. Clear. Calculated. Confirmed. I tried to remember the last time we'd kissed like we meant it. The last time she'd laughed at my dumb jokes or texted me something that wasn't a grocery request. It had all gone quiet. Like the final minutes of a movie where you realize the ending's been decided, and you just didn't see it coming. Except, I'd seen the signs. I just didn't want them to be real. The wine glass in the sink. The car with temporary plates. The perfume. The cycling lies. The way she guarded her phone like it held a bomb. I knew. My body knew before my mind was ready to accept it. I replayed that hallway snap *T again. Zoomed in. Watched as they moved together in sync. Bodies aligned like they'd done it 100 times before. There was no guilt in her expression. No hesitation. Just ease. Comfort. Like this was her real life now, and I was the side plot she was phasing out. I got up, paced the hotel room, tried to slow my breathing. The worst part? She didn't even try to hide it well. Not really. It wasn't some master plan. It was sloppiness fueled by comfort, the confidence that I'd never look, that I'd never question her, that I'd keep trusting while she built a new reality right inside our home. And she was right. Until now. I didn't sleep that night. I laid on the hotel bed, staring at the ceiling, phone buzzing occasionally with alerts and nothingness. I kept imagining them together in our house, on our couch, using our wine opener. Maybe she'd even introduced him to our cat, the one who never liked anyone but her. Maybe she had let him sleep in my spot, under the same quilt her mom gave us. I wondered if he knew about me, if she told him I traveled all the time, if she painted me as boring, distant, safe, the kind of husband who wouldn't fight for her, who'd make it easy to leave. Maybe that's how she justified it, by rewriting me in her head. I thought about calling her parents, her brother, her best friend, who once told me I was the only guy Caitlin ever truly looked at like he hung the stars. Did she still believe that? Had that ever been real? I didn't know anymore. Everything I thought we were, the inside jokes, the road trips, the lazy Sundays, all of it suddenly felt like a set she'd walked off of, like I was clinging to a scene she'd already moved past. By sunrise, I knew what I had to do. I forwarded the security photo to my personal email, saved the badge request, took **TS of the streaming history. I wasn't thinking revenge. I wasn't even angry, not in the way I thought I'd be. I just wanted clarity, something real. Because now, every moment from the last 6 months, every silence, every awkward dinner, every night she claimed to be exhausted, had new meaning. It was all reframed, and what I saw now wasn't confusion. It was choice. She had made her decision. She just didn't tell me. Maybe she was going to wait until after the holidays. Maybe she had a plan. A gentle script about growth and time apart and finding herself. Maybe Evans had even helped her write it. But I didn't need to wait anymore. I had seen the video, and it told me everything she never had the courage to say. By the time I got home from Austin, I wasn't even sure what version of Caitlin I was going to walk into. The pictures, the badge request, the wine order, they were burned into my head. But part of me wondered if I'd open the door to a panicked confession. Maybe she'd cry. Maybe she'd beg. Maybe she'd break down and tell me everything. Give me the truth, raw and unscripted. But that wasn't the Caitlin I got. What I got was calm, routine, practiced. She was already home when I walked in, wearing one of my old t-shirts, the gray one with the tiny bleach stain near the hem, and sipping tea on the couch like nothing had happened. Legs curled under her, a blanket around her shoulders, TV remote resting in her lap. She looked up and smiled. "How was the trip?" she asked, voice light, like she'd just seen me that morning. I just stood there for a second. Not angry, just stunned by how good she was at this. It wasn't even acting, it was something deeper. A kind of performance that had been rehearsed so many times, it had become second nature. "It was fine," I said. I put my bag down and sat across from her, not next to her. That detail felt important. She didn't react. "Long days?" she asked, taking a sip from the mug. I caught the scent chamomile, the kind she always drank after stressful days. I nodded slowly. "Yeah, some late nights." She hummed in acknowledgement like we were swapping war stories. Then she turned back to the TV and adjusted the volume, as if my presence had filled a space in her evening and nothing more. And that was the moment I realized. She wasn't preparing to explain anything. She wasn't anxious or on edge. She was settled. Her script was already written, and it didn't include confrontation. It included tea and television and soft questions about my day. I watched her for a while, trying to find a crack, a twitch, a flicker of guilt. But there was nothing, just comfort. She had buried whatever truth she was carrying so deep that it didn't weigh her down anymore. When she got up to go to bed, she paused beside me, leaned in, and kissed the top of my head. "I missed you," she said. I didn't respond. I think she noticed, but she didn't push it. She just padded off down the hallway, and I heard the bedroom door click softly behind her. I sat in the quiet and stared at the blank TV screen. She had turned it off like she was giving me space, or pretending she was the kind of wife who did thoughtful things. Eventually, I followed her to bed. She was already under the covers, facing the wall. I changed in silence, climbed in beside her, and left a stretch of space between us. Maybe 6 inches, maybe 60 miles. She didn't reach for me. I didn't expect her to. That night, I stared at the ceiling for hours. My brain felt like a maze. Every thought led back to the same dead ends. How long? Why him? When did it start? I kept playing the image from the hallway camera in my head. The way she smiled at Evans. The easy laugh. the body language of someone who wasn't pretending. And then I thought about the woman lying next to me. How she could be both people, the one with him on Sunday and the one with me now. It didn't make sense. Unless she didn't see a difference anymore. Unless she had blurred the lines so completely that this version of her, the wife, was just one of many roles she knew how to play. That thought chilled me more than anything. In the morning, she was already up when I walked into the kitchen. She was pouring coffee into our usual mugs, mine black, hers with oat milk and cinnamon. Like it was any other day. She handed me mine. "You look tired. Didn't sleep much?" I said, taking it from her hand without touching her fingers. She leaned against the counter. "You want eggs? Or toast?" I shook my head. She nodded. "All right, I might run to Target later. We're low on detergent." I almost laughed, not because it was funny, but because I suddenly understood what was happening. This wasn't her pretending nothing was wrong. This was her replacing the truth, overriding it with errands and small talk. She had rewritten the reality she wanted to live in, and I was supposed to memorize my lines and say them on cue. But I couldn't. Not anymore. "You used my corporate card," I said flatly. She blinked. "What?" "While I was gone." "DoorDash." "Why?" "Our address. Your name." There was a flicker subtle in her eyes, like a glitch in the software. "Oh, that?" she said. "It was for Ryan. His company card wasn't working and you filed a guest badge under his name." I cut in. She didn't answer right away, just looked down at her coffee. "It wasn't a big deal," she finally said. "He was working on a project that needed. You listed our home as his residence." Silence. Not shocked, just still. "He needed a place to park," she said quietly. "It's not like that. You were in the building with him. Sunday. You said you were at your sister's." She exhaled, a little too controlled. "I knew you'd overreact." That sentence hit me like a slap. I knew you'd overreact. Not "I'm sorry." Not "let me explain." Just a sentence designed to make me question my own sanity. I didn't respond. We stood there in the kitchen. Husband and wife, 10 feet apart, the scent of cinnamon in the air, and the silence between us stretched into something permanent. She didn't confess. She didn't apologize. She didn't even ask what I knew or how much, because she already knew the answer. Everything. She nodded once, like she was checking off a box. Then she set her mug down and left the kitchen. Just like that. No tears. No confrontation. No collapse. Later that day, she texted me from the other room. "Don't forget the HOA fee is due." That was it. No acknowledgement. No follow-up. Just business as usual. That's when it hit me. She wasn't waiting for a confrontation. She was waiting for the exit. She wasn't going to fight. She wasn't going to scream or sob or beg. She was going to fade, step by step, and I was supposed to stand still while she disappeared. She wore my t-shirts. She brewed my coffee. She used words like "we" and "later" and "next week." But she wasn't here anymore. She was just occupying space, masking absence with rituals. That night, when we got into bed, I didn't even try to close the distance. Neither did she. The space between us might as well have been a canyon. No warmth, no tension, just nothing. And in that nothing, I finally understood. Her silence wasn't guilt. It was indifference. She had already left the relationship. She was just waiting for the paperwork to catch up. And I was lying next to a ghost who still knew how to fold laundry and say, "Good morning." I used to think endings came with screaming, curses, slammed doors, suitcases thrown into back seats in the middle of the night. But that's not how Caitlin was ending this. Not with flames, with silence, with subtraction, with a slow, quiet dismantling of our life that was so methodical, so clean, I didn't even see it until most of it was already gone. She was preparing her exit like an architect disassembling blueprints, not burning them, just removing rooms one by one. And I was still living inside the house, wondering why it felt smaller every day. It started with jackets. Her side of the closet used to be packed. She'd complain about needing more hangers, about how I was stealing space. But I noticed one morning, standing there in a towel, that there were gaps. Big ones. Her red wool peacoat, gone. The dark green trench she wore every October, gone. The navy blazer I bought her for a job interview, still with the dry cleaning tag on it, gone. I didn't say anything, because what do you say? Hey, where did half your identity go? The next time I checked the drawer where we kept our passports, hers wasn't there. Neither was her social security card or her birth certificate. The envelope used to be thick, filled with neatly stacked documents. Now it felt light, thin, as if it had been quietly looted. Her makeup vanished. I noticed one night brushing my teeth. There used to be an entire section of the bathroom counter covered in serums and brushes and lipsticks I could never keep straight. Now it was just my toothbrush, a bottle of mouthwash, and the same soap we'd always used. No color, no clutter, just mine. When I asked about it, she shrugged and said, "I'm trying to simplify, right? Because that's what people do before a fresh start. They erase the evidence of their current one." Even her books disappeared. She'd always kept a stack on her nightstand. Dog-eared novels, essays, journals half-filled. But one by one they vanished. When I asked about the gaps on the shelves, she said she'd donated them. They were just collecting dust, she told me. But I knew Caitlin. Books were never just books. She marked them, underlined them. They were part of her. You don't donate yourself away without a reason. Food changed too. She stopped grocery shopping altogether. I'd come home from work and find the fridge half empty. A few eggs, an old yogurt, some almond milk she never drank. When I asked why she hadn't gone, she'd say, "I've been swamped." Or, "You're better at it anyway." She used to be meticulous about the kitchen, rotating old food, labeling leftovers. But now she acted like the fridge was someone else's problem. She'd eat late, often alone. Or she'd say she wasn't hungry and disappear into the bedroom with a protein bar and a sparkling water. She stopped cooking, stopped lighting candles, stopped playing music when she cleaned. The whole house felt like a hotel room after checkout. Technically clean, but no one really lived there anymore. She wasn't sleeping either. Not really. I'd wake up in the middle of the night and feel her beside me. Stiff, distant, breathing shallow, like she was awake, but pretending. Once, I whispered her name. She didn't answer, just lay there, frozen. I started staying up later, listening for sounds, hoping she'd sneak out, hoping in some twisted way I'd catch her in the act. At least then I'd have something tangible to fight against. But she didn't leave. She just existed next to me like a ghost. No touch, no words, no warmth. One night I asked if she wanted to watch a movie. Something funny, something light. She smiled and said, "Maybe later," and walked into the other room. She never came back. That same night, I went to plug in my phone and realized her charger was gone. So was the ring dish she kept on the dresser. So was the framed photo of us from our trip to Santa Fe, the one she said made her smile every time she passed it. All gone. Like the space around her was shedding. She started working late again. Not every night, just enough to create distance. She stopped asking what I wanted for dinner, or if I had meetings the next day, or if I slept well. I became something in the background. Furniture. Fixture. I wasn't a husband anymore. I was the guy she used to love, who still lived in her house out of convenience or fear or guilt. The S*X, what little we had left, turned clinical. Not cold, exactly, but hollow. She'd kiss me, like checking off a list. Her hands were there, but her eyes weren't. Afterward, she'd roll over without a word, and I'd lie there staring at the ceiling, feeling used by my own wife. I stopped trying. I stopped reaching, and I think that's what she wanted. Not a fight, just my quiet acceptance of the unraveling. There was a moment, one that sticks with me more than I want it to, when I found her sitting in the living room alone, lights off, staring at her laptop. She didn't see me walk in. She was watching a YouTube video, some travel vlog, set to soft music. The couple on screen was laughing, barefoot, dancing in a foreign kitchen. And Caitlin smiled. Not at me, at them. Like that was her new goal. A different life. A different man. A clean apartment with tall windows and someone who didn't know her as she used to be. She didn't hear me. I just backed away. Went to bed. Pretended I'd never seen it. What was I supposed to say? Do you wish you were somewhere else? With someone else? I already knew the answer. I started watching her like a stranger, observing patterns. How she'd avoid eye contact during breakfast. How she'd scroll Instagram and pause too long on certain photos. How she never made weekend plans anymore. How she started locking her side of the closet. She was scrubbing me out of her life. Systematically, deliberately, like preparing a house for a new tenant. Painting over the walls. Packing up the memories. All without a single conversation. And I let it happen, because I kept hoping it was just a phase. That she'd hit a wall and turn back around. That she'd cry and say she didn't know what she was doing. That she missed me. That she loved me. But she never did. The closest I got was a Wednesday morning when I found her sitting on the edge of the bed. Hands in her lap, just staring ahead. She looked at me. Not like a partner, but like someone struggling to remember a name. "You okay?" I asked. She nodded, slow. "Just tired." That was all. That's all it ever was. Tired. Busy. Distracted. Never "I'm lying." Never "I'm leaving." I think she wanted me to end it. To pull the trigger so she wouldn't have to. That way she could say it wasn't her. That I gave up. That she tried. Whatever that meant. But I wasn't going to make it easy for her. She owed me the truth. Not a clean break. A real one. The kind that leaves a mark. I found a hidden file on her old hard drive, exit. Docs. 5 pages, step by step, her exit plan. Phase 1. Emotional distance. Phase 2. Establish new routine. A chilling note read, "Limit mentions of Ryan to 2x/week." She hadn't drifted. She had rehearsed this. While I hoped for healing, she was scripting my replacement. I sent her breakup script to her family and friends. No message, just the file. Her silence cracked after that. "People are talking," she said over breakfast, trying to smile. I nodded. When she left, she wrote me a letter full of poetic metaphors. I never read it. I moved to Savannah. Started over. She doesn't get to write my ending.